Welcome to Guns and Gear Network, everyone. Appreciate you tuning in today. Today we're going to do a CB radio review of a new CB that I got in. So the company President sent me a request asking would I like to review one of their radios. And after doing a little research about the company and a couple of their radios, I decided that I would like to do a review of one of theirs. And this is what we're going to do today. So, you know, I'm a big advocate of communications when it comes to prepping, survival, overlanding. I think it's very important, and CB is one of those key components. I've got quite a few videos about CB radios and so forth. I'm not an expert in CB, but I do believe in CB radios as far as communication. And I've also been dealing with CBs off and on for years. And this radio really got my attention, and it has a lot of features that was just different than what I'd seen before, and I wanted to try it and see what it was about, and it did not disappoint whatsoever. This is probably my favorite CB radio that I've ever had or dealt with, and it's highly recommended by me at this point, as probably, in my opinion, one of the best radios for prepping, survival, and overlanding. And we'll go into all those features here shortly. So I'm not going to go into a tabletop style review. There's a couple guys that did some tabletop reviews of this radio, going over every individual feature and function of this radio, and I'm going to put that in the section below down there to link to, that you can go to and watch their videos. I'm just going to highlight a few key features that I think makes this radio awesome. So I've had it in for a couple weeks now. I went on an extended vacation with my family last week, used this radio traveling about 5 hours there and 5 hours back, and it helped me in quite a few different situations, and during traffic, and there was an accident, things like that. And that's why I think that CB radios are important. So there's a few features that I want to talk about. One is called the automatic squelch control, and that's featured here on this box. It also has a very neat way to do your SWR adjustments, and that's like the bee's knees when it comes to this radio. That is just, it blew me away how simple it was, and we talk about SWRs, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. So let's look at the radio itself. I went ahead and mounted it in my vehicle so I could use it, and that's why we're not really doing a tabletop. I wanted to get some time on the road with it and to be able to show you guys. So one of the features that I like about this radio in particular, that it has a few different bands, and it also has weather band, and I'll show you that now.
Near steady temperature in the upper 80s. South winds around 5 miles per hour. Chance of rain 20%. Tonight, mostly clear.
The weather feature button is right here, and if you look across here, all these buttons are multi-function. So this right here is the mode button, and so forth. So the weather band is very important to me. I think that you need that when it comes to being prepared. You need to have a way to listen to the radio and have that. Within the weather feature itself, it actually has an alert feature that you can set. If you look here on this screen, if I can get it in focus, it says alert. And that way, if the weather puts out an alert, it'll automatically go through the radio and alert us to anything that's happening in that area that you have it set to. So that's one of the features. The other feature is it is a single sideband radio. Now, again, I'm not an expert in CB. Here's what I do know about single sideband. So you have 40 channels, and then you have what's called upper sideband and lower sideband. So you actually are splitting channels, if you will, or splitting frequencies, and it gives you more range and it gives you more capability. Probably 95-98% of the time, I'm going to use just standard AM CB radio function, right? But in emergency, you want to be able to have that just a little bit of extra. And because this has single sideband, upper and lower, I'm able to utilize that. So let's look at that a minute. And again, it goes on this mode button here. So right now, I am just in regular CB. I I'm in upper sideband, lower sideband. With single sideband, you have to have a clarifier to fine-tune your signal. So this one has a coarse adjustment right here and a fine adjustment. So if it's not clear, you can take and adjust that. And let me show you a little bit of how that works. So that's the coarse adjustment. So that is lower sideband, back to AM, upper sideband. And then you can adjust that with different channels and so forth. So let's go maybe find a different channel. I'm currently on upper sideband. It also utilizes more power, and if I'm not mistaken, it's up to 12 watts in the single sideband mode. Not a lot of activity currently. Let's go back to AM. All right. So that's another feature that I think is important, is the single sideband. Another feature is the fact that I can adjust my channels by the microphone itself. It has up and down. So when you do the up, go ahead and go. You watch.
I like that name. Bushmaster. Bushmaster Chicago go.
All right, so that's going up. When you go down, you'll notice that it has a double beep. Single going forward. That way you know if you're going up or down in the channels. Now, to me, that's a great feature. I was able to, while I was driving, just grab the microphone and hit it without having to fumble around down at the bottom. I can just kind of glance at what channel I'm at. If you know what channel you're at, you obviously can count in your head. If I'm at 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I am on 30. So I did not look at the screen while I did that. So that's a cool little feature that I like. Go back to 19. All right, so let's go to 17 for now. I'll show you something. You have this feature here, which is the 9 and 19 button. So if I hit that, it goes to 9, which used to be the emergency channel. It's not really monitored or used that much anymore, but it is an dedicated emergency channel. I can go to 19, which is what people also consider the truckers channel. That's where you're going to get the most traffic, typically, especially on the interstates. And then if I hit it a third time, it goes back to the channel that I started, which was 17. Okay. Then another feature is this button here, which goes through your adjustments. So if I hit it once, it goes to this, which is the color, and then you turn the knob, and if you look, it turned to green, blue, back to orange, blue. Orange, ironically, matches the exact colors that are used in the FJ Cruiser. So that's the dimmer. So if you look, I can dim it down all the way brightness. That's the contrast. Key beep. So I can either leave it on or off. And key beep is every time I hit a button that it beeps. Like that. Go to the next one, Roger beep. There was a little issue with the Roger beep, according to a couple guys that reviewed this. The Roger beep is after you transmit, when you release the mic, it beeps, and the other person can hear it, signifying that you have quit transmission. They said that the Roger beep did not work really well, just to give you a heads up on that, if you're a fan of the Roger beep. So, there goes back to color, dimmer, contrast, key beep, Roger beep. So this is the SWR feature that I'm going to show you that's really cool. So let me cut it off real quick, get it out of that. All right, so let's talk about SWR just for a second. Everybody knows that with CB radios or any radio, you need to adjust your SWR. I'm not going to go into all the details about SWR. Just understand that you do need it adjusted to operate correctly and for your not to damage your radio and to go to work in its best capacity. So this one, normally you'd have to use an SWR meter. You'd have to buy it, hook it up, and you would have to key the mic, go back out, adjust your antenna outside your vehicle back and forth until you finally get everything tuned in. This one has an automatic adjuster, and I'll show you how that works. So let's just assume, let's go through the modes again and get over here to the SWR. You notice it's at 1 and it's got a solid signal. That means my SWR is correct. Now I'm going to show you something. So let's go outside the vehicle. I've got the volume turned up. And if I go over here to my antenna and I pull it down to mimic the SWR reading to be off, listen. Hear that beeping? That tells me the SWR is not correct. So in this case, now it's back correct. Now this is one of the fire sticks with the adjustable tip, and all I had to do was come outside my vehicle, adjust, pull the antenna back up in the straight position, listen to see if the tone was solid like you hear there. If it wasn't, I made another adjustment, and then once I got it to a strong, solid tone like that, that means the SWR is adjusted correctly. Now, it doesn't get any simpler or easier than that. Normally, I would have had to go inside and outside the vehicle numerous times to do that. Go back out of these. And we'll go through some channels real quick.
Number 3, well, make sure the camera did the modulation in it. Make sure he took all the picofarades and opened that camera wide open. And don't take your looks for just cuteness on the outside. You got to eliminate that clipper. There's a lot of stuff you got to do, man. Man, look, that's why this camera sound like this. Lord have mercy. Take care, number 3. Hey, number 3, that's a stock mic. I see you.
So let me see if I can reach that gentleman. It may be in skip. I don't know if I can reach him or not. So let's try it. Break 20 for radio check, break 20 for radio check. Sometimes you can get signals coming in.
It was hard for me to come down here and look at my little radio station throw up. I didn't have to mess with the radio. I had to move this damn box and the mother.
So I'll tell you this. Here's how this works. Let's assume that guy's got a bass unit that's very powerful. I can actually pick him up, but because my radio may not be as strong to get to him, he may not be able to hear me. So if you ever run into a situation, you're new guys that don't really understand radio, sometimes you can hear people, but they can't hear you because just based on what power and so forth like that that's been running. Let's try that again. Wait till they get finished talking.
Mr. Worldwide Cleanup Man, 1956 Johnson Pike and Valiant, and receiving with this great big National 300 receiver. 1950, no doubt about it. Worldwide Clean, Chicago. Keep up the good work, gentlemen. Me and this great big station on standby. Bye.
Break 20 radio check, break 20 radio check. Alright, so I couldn't get that guy. I think that's in skip. See if I can find another channel maybe. So another feature is that we talked about earlier was the automatic squelch control. So a lot of people, when they first get into CBs, they think that you're supposed to hear static. That is not the case. You're not supposed to hear static at all until somebody transmits, and then you're supposed to hear whatever they're saying. So normally you would have to adjust your squelch. On this one, here's the volume. In behind that is the squelch. And I can manually adjust that. That's where the squelch is all the way. Come up here and I can adjust it out. So what you want to do is find where it's staticky and back it up just a little bit beyond that. And there, if somebody transmits, it should come through. The neat feature about this one has automatic squelch control. So if you go all the way to the left, you'll notice this little emblem here says ASC, or automatic squelch control, has come up. And that manually keeps your squelch kind of in the middle where it's supposed to be. So watch, I'll go through the channels and see if I can find where, if you look, it's quiet. Alright, so 28 had enough, on channel 28 there was enough to squelch. So there's that. And again, I won't go over every feature on here because I'll do that. I'll post up the videos if you want to know. But in my opinion, this is probably the best radio that I've seen with all the features that it has for the prepping, survival, and overland community. I know a lot of the guys in the overland community like the all-in-one hand units that's in the microphone. I don't really like those. I've always liked a more full-size radio. This is kind of a compromise compared to some of the real large radios. This is kind of in the middle, and it does great. It's been a great radio since I've been using it for a couple weeks now. It gets good reviews, and it has all the features that I'm looking for in a radio. Another neat feature about this one that you don't see often is the fact that this is a front firing speaker. In other words, the speaker comes out the front. Most of your CBs, speaker comes out the bottom, and that sometimes muffles and things like that. Another thing that's neat about this radio, that it is DIN compatible. In other words, it will fit inside these dash openings. So if you have a radio and you want to mount it in here, you can. That front firing speaker is important to have, because if not, you would be putting your radio in, even if it was DIN compatible, you would put it in and then you would have to run an external speaker because the speaker would be inside your dash pointing down. This one, you just push it in and mount it, and then the speaker would be in the front facing forward. Even in this configuration down here, it works great. I was able to hear it much better than I have my other radios that had that speaker configuration down here on the side. It just is more muffled. This is much louder and able for me to hear it. But anyway, guys, if you are looking for an awesome CB with a lot of features, like I said, that SWR feature, to me, I don't have to keep an SWR. Let's say an emergency situation, something happens to my vehicle, I need to remove this one real quick, get over and put it in another vehicle, and I don't have an SWR meter. You could damage your radio if you didn't have a way to adjust that. This right here has it built in. I can adjust it on the fly, moving it from vehicle to vehicle, or if something maybe would happen to my antenna and I needed to check something, I just go through that adjustment process and it's adjusted correctly. So that's hard to beat, and I've never seen that feature other than this. President has a bunch of different types of radios, and I'll post in the section below how to get to their website and what they all have as far as selections as far as radios. And they name their radios after presidents. This one's McKinley, and then they have others. But anyway, I want to thank the folks over at President for sending this out. It was very nice of them to do, and like I said, this is probably my favorite one that I've ever seen as far as CB radios go. But anyway, guys, appreciate you tuning in. If you got any questions, you can post those below. If you like our videos, give us a thumbs up. That's always appreciated. Also, share content down there. It helps us get the word out about Guns and Gear Network and these awesome vendors that send us products for review. As always, guys, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll bring another video shortly. Have a great day.